I still remember the way he kissed my forehead that night. The room was dark, quiet except for the hum of the fan overhead and the occasional creak of the old wooden floorboards in our century-old house. I had just turned off the lamp on my side of the bed when he leaned in, brushed my hair back gently, and whispered, "Good night, love." His voice was soft and familiar, the very sound I had known for over a decade. I was tired from the long day, the kids, work, the errands, and I barely had time to respond before slipping into sleep. I didn't question it. I didn't open my eyes. I didn't feel the need to. After all, it was my husband, wasn't it? The man I had married, lived with, laughed with, fought with, made memories with, the man whose touch I knew better than my own, or so I thought. When I opened my eyes that morning, everything was quiet again. But it was the kind of silence that wasn't peaceful. It was too still, too heavy. The kind of silence that felt like a storm had passed or was just about to hit. At first, I couldn't quite place what felt off. The room looked the same. The bed covers were drawn over both sides. The curtains were slightly open, letting in a sliver of pale morning light. But as I turned my head toward the other side of the bed, where I had assumed he would be, I noticed the indentation on the pillow, but no one was there. I sat up, confused, my heart starting to pick up speed. Had he left for work early? But it was Sunday. Then where was he? I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. I got up, wrapped my robe around me, and walked out of the room. The house was empty. No coffee brewing, no humming from the bathroom, no TV in the background. That was the first moment the unease turned into something colder, something that reached into my spine and whispered, "Something's wrong." I wandered from room to room calling his name. "Daniel," my voice echoed back at me. I looked out into the driveway. His car was still there. So where was he? I tried calling his cell, but it rang from somewhere in the house. I followed the sound to the guest room. His phone was lying on the side table. The screen lit up with my call. But he never left his phone behind, ever. I picked it up, confused, and noticed something stranger. The last message he had sent was to someone named Elle, a simple, cryptic message that read, "She doesn't suspect anything." My hands trembled as I stared at it. My brain tried to rationalize. Was this work-related? Was this about a surprise, an event, a prank, anything? I scrolled through the messages and felt my throat dry. There were more dozens, some recent, some weeks old. Some flirty, some intimate, some disturbing. All sent while we were supposed to be together, happy, trusting. I stumbled backward, the room spinning. That was when I noticed the open closet. A duffel bag was missing, his duffel. And then the bathroom mirror. It was fogged from recent use. And there were wet footprints leading back into our bedroom. I followed them. They stopped on his side of the bed, right where he had whispered, "Good night, love." And suddenly it hit me, that whisper. It wasn't Daniel's. It sounded like him, yes. It felt like him in the dark, but there was something slightly off in the tone, something softer, eerier, unfamiliar. My hands began to shake uncontrollably. Someone had been in bed with me last night, someone who wasn't Daniel. I stood frozen, unable to breathe, unable to move. The room, which had always felt like my safest place, now felt like a stranger's den. I tried to recall every second. From last night, we had dinner together. At least, I thought we had. I remembered making pasta, drinking wine. But when I tried to visualize Daniel's face, it was blurry. Could memory fail you that fast? Could shock erase something so intimate? I rushed to the security camera monitor by the front door. We'd installed it after a break-in months ago. I pulled up the footage from last night, heart hammering like a jackhammer. And what I saw made the blood drain from my face. At 10:48 p.m., a man entered through the front door using Daniel's keys. He wore Daniel's jacket, walked like him, and went into our bedroom. But it wasn't him. His build was slightly off. He was shorter. his shoulders narrower. And when he turned toward the hallway camera for a second, I saw his face. Not Daniel. Not even close. Someone had impersonated my husband. Someone had come into my house, my bedroom, my bed, and whispered those words to me. "Good night, love." The words now sounded sinister. A mockery, a threat. I stumbled back, barely able to process it. My phone fell from my hand, shattering on the floor. I screamed. Not because of the broken screen, but because I suddenly remembered something else. A detail so chilling, it stole the scream right from my throat. A scar. The man in the footage had a scar on his neck, the same scar I had brushed with my fingers in the dark as I drifted off to sleep. I didn't know who to call. The police? What would I even say? Someone pretended to be my husband and slept beside me without my knowledge. It sounded insane. But I wasn't imagining things. I had proof. The footage, the messages. The missing duffel. But where was Daniel? Was he kidnapped? Was he in on this? My heart ached at the possibility. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I took his phone again and traced the messages. The contact named Al had sent an address an hour away. I didn't even hesitate. I threw on clothes, grabbed my keys, and drove. The GPS led me through winding country roads to an old motel, the kind you don't notice unless you're looking for it. My hands were sweating as I walked up to the front desk. "Room 6, the clerk said without much care when I showed him Daniel's photo. I walked up slowly, every step heavy with dread. I knocked, no answer. Then I banged harder, still nothing. Just when I was about to leave, the door creaked open from the inside. There he was, Daniel, alive, but not relieved to see me. He looked afraid, and behind him, half naked, was a woman I'd never seen before. "What are you doing here?" he whispered harshly, stepping out and closing the door behind him. My voice cracked. "Who was in my bed last night?" He went pale. "You weren't supposed to find out like this," he muttered. That's when I realized he wasn't kidnapped. He wasn't a victim. He had planned this. His confession came slowly, like venom dripping from a cracked vial. "I needed time," he said, avoiding my gaze. Time to think, to figure things out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you sent someone to impersonate you, to sleep beside me?" I hissed, my voice shaking with fury. "It wasn't supposed to go that far," he whispered. "It was just supposed to buy me a night too. Work things out with Lacey. So that was Elle, the woman behind the door." My mind couldn't wrap around the madness. How could the man I trusted with everything betray me in the most twisted, calculated way imaginable? "Who was he?" I asked, trembling. "An old friend," Daniel replied. He owed me a favor. My knees buckled, and I stumbled back. A favor? Someone owed him a favor and pretended to be him in our home, in our bed. "You let a stranger touch me, sleep next to me," I screamed. "He didn't touch you," Daniel said quickly. He was just there to make it seem like nothing had changed. "I didn't want you to panic." My vision blurred. "You didn't want me to panic. You let a stranger lay next to me while you slept with another woman." He had no answer, just silence. That was the moment something inside me broke. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was physical, psychological, violating. He had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I turned and walked away, but his voice followed me. "Please, don't go to the police. It'll ruin everything." That's when I realized he wasn't sorry. He was afraid, not for me, for himself. I drove home in silence, the road blurring before me. My phone was dead, my thoughts racing. Every mile took me farther from the man I once thought I knew and closer to something I didn't understand. How many lies had there been? Was our entire marriage built on them? I got back to the house just after sunset, still numb. The shadows seemed longer now, the silence even heavier. I sat on the living room floor, hugging my knees, unable to cry. The betrayal had hollowed me out. Eventually, I plugged in my phone and turned it back on. Messages flooded in from friends, from my mother, from Daniel, and then one more from an unknown number. A video with shaking fingers. I pressed play. It was footage from inside our bedroom, taken from the corner, our own baby monitor cam. I'd forgotten was even connected. In the video, I saw myself asleep. And him, not Daniel, the man with the scar. He wasn't just lying next to me. He was awake, watching me. Stroking my hair while I slept, my blood ran cold. My skin crawled. The timestamp was clear. 2:32 a.m. he had been awake. 4 hours observing me like I was prey, and Daniel had sent him. The nausea hit me so hard I had to run to the bathroom. I vomited everything I had. Then I cried. For the first time that day, I wept for the trust lost, the innocence stolen, the violation I hadn't even known I endured. And I knew then, this wasn't just betrayal. This was criminal. This was psychological assault. I contacted the police the next morning. It was the hardest call I'd ever made, but I did it. I handed over the video, the texts, the security footage, everything. They took it seriously, too many layers to ignore. A man impersonating a husband, breaking and entering, unauthorized surveillance, psychological manipulation, assault by deception. The officer looked visibly shaken. This is not just a domestic issue, he said. This could turn into a federal case. They asked about the man in the video. I told them everything I knew. Within hours, they identified him, Mark Reynolds, a former Army buddy of Daniel's, a man with a history of psychological instability and prior complaints of stalking. He had vanished from his last known address 2 weeks ago. Suddenly, the story had teeth. I gave them Daniel's motel address. That evening, they made the arrest. Mark was found hiding in the woods behind the building, his duffel packed and ready to run. Daniel, meanwhile, was charged with conspiracy and aiding in a criminal impersonation. The trial took months. During that time, I lived like a shadow. Afraid to sleep, afraid to trust. I changed the locks, installed new cameras, and saw a therapist 3 times a week. The kids didn't understand why Daddy was away, and I didn't have the heart to explain. I barely understood it myself. How could the man who once held me through nightmares become the nightmare himself? People asked why I didn't see it coming, why I didn't notice, but love has a way of blinding you. Especially when you believe in it too deeply. The court sentenced Daniel to 7 years in prison. Mark got 12. The judge called their actions a disturbing breach of human trust and dignity, but no prison sentence could undo what they'd done to me. I left the city, took the kids, and moved to a quieter place where no one knew our names. I started over slowly. I joined support groups. I learned to laugh again, though it took time. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, unsure of who's beside me, only to realize I now sleep alone, and that's okay. Because solitude, I've learned, is far safer than lying next to someone who calls you love with someone else's intentions behind their eyes. I never trusted a whisper in the dark again. People talk about betrayal as if it's a moment, a single act. But it's not. It's a haunting, a splinter in your soul that you can't dig out. I tell my story now not because I enjoy living it, but because others need to know that even the most familiar voice can wear a mask. And that sometimes the real danger isn't outside your home. It's the one who carries your house keys and whispers goodnight.